Hi, back. I wasn't very well last week. So I only wrote 2 journal entries last week. Yes, hello Ginger. Are you coming here? It's Ginger's over there. Yeah, so I wrote 2 journal entries last week because I wasn't feeling very well. And well, I'm going to read both of them out. They're quite long, but there are things in there in both of them that I want to say really. So I won't read a journal entry from my old journal from back in 2014 because that would make it a very long video otherwise. So I'll just read the 2 from last week. You see them? I'm wearing my gang stalking hoodie. I've been wearing my hoodies every time I go out, but I'm going to have to put them in the washing machine because they're getting a bit smelly. Right, so this is the journal entry that I wrote on the 29th of June, which was Thursday last week. I haven't been feeling well for the past 4 days. I always feel much worse when I have my period. There's a few flies around, so I don't know if the camera's picking them up, but I can't do anything about them, so. It seems to be an opportunity for them to attack me when I have my period, so I haven't been journaling much. I get these blocks against it, and if I stop for a day, it's very difficult to get started again. But I think the controllers have something to do with that. So this entry is a summary of the past 4 days. My monthly internet allowance started again on Tuesday. It took me ages to upload my last video though. It takes about an hour and a half to export a video from my editing software. I use Lightworks. And then it takes about the same amount of time to upload to YouTube. So the last episode I uploaded, I didn't watch it because it was quite long and I just wanted to get it uploaded. It wasn't until the next day when I clicked on it, just to check it was okay, I realised the video was completely screwed. It was just a couple of frames repeating over and over. The audio was okay. The odd thing was no one had made any comment to point this out. I went back to the original video and found the screw-up had happened when I was exporting it from Lightworks. I had been watching a DVD while I was waiting for the video to export, so I'm guessing my laptop can't cope with doing these two things at the same time. I tried to export the video again, and just as it was about to finish, my laptop crashed, so I had to start again. So in the end, it took 3 hours to export. Actually, I was having a few electrical problems that day as well. My negative ion generator stopped working. Negative ions are essential for our health. There are always more negative ions in the air after it rains, which is why going outside after it has rained can make us feel better. It could be the fuse has just blown. I remember a time when this never seemed to happen. Now it seems to happen with regularity. I've had vacuum cleaners and ovens blow up on me too. One vacuum cleaner just blew itself up. It wasn't the fuse or anything. Also, I wanted to play a DVD on my portable DVD player while my video was exporting, as I couldn't watch it on my laptop, but the power cable had disappeared. I know where I'd put it, under my small sofa with all my other cables and now defunct laptops. I spent half an hour looking for it though, as sometimes the perch just moves stuff for a laugh, but I didn't find it. In the end, I didn't manage to upload my video to YouTube till 10:30 in the evening. It had taken me all day. But that's the point of all this, to slow you down and to try to stop you doing what you're doing. Tuesday, I also had a letter from my social worker, Gemma Wainwright. It was very short and simply said I will be coming on the 29th of June, Thursday. No explanation of why she was coming. I get an annual visit to discuss my care plan, but I only had my last one a few months ago, so it can't be that. But I'm seriously thinking of cancelling my care plan. I'm so sick of this lot, the carers and the social worker. I'm not as bad, health-wise, as I used to be. I did go through a period when just getting out of bed and sitting up for an hour was a struggle. I was that exhausted all the time. And it wasn't just fatigue, I felt physically ill. Looking back, it's pretty shocking none of the carers did anything, like telling my doctor or the social worker, given the change in my health. But then the ultimate goal of this harassment is to push me over the edge, or just give up quietly and waste away. In the afternoon I called Gemma and got her answer machine, so I left a message saying I wouldn't be in Thursday morning and could she let me know why she wanted to see me and we could arrange another date. I also added that I was thinking of cancelling my care plan. It was Laura who came in the evening. She's still being super nice. I don't trust her though. The book I'd recommended to her because she kept saying she was thinking of going organic and she wanted to lose weight, and which she said she was definitely going to get, and she would tell me how she got on with it the next time she saw me. She said she hadn't got, but she put it on her Amazon wish list. Maybe she did put it on her wish list. Maybe she'd actually got the book and wasn't telling me. She made me talk about this book for a good while. It seems to me they tell me they haven't read the books I recommend or acted on advice I've given because they don't want me to think that what I say to people has any impact, hoping I suppose I will stop trying to spread truth to people. She asked me what I'd done today and I said I'd been to Tesco. She asked how it was and quickly added how she doesn't like crowded places and about an experience she had when she was a child and she'd been taken to the Bull Ring in Birmingham, which is a large market, and how afraid she'd been. I don't know whether she really has a problem with crowds. My problems are more sensory, the noise and having to concentrate to weave in and out of all the people because of my poor balance and coordination. I think she wanted me to think I had something in common with her, that I could trust her. She stayed late again, about 3/4 of an hour. The call is supposed to be half an hour. She's done this twice now. I asked her if she wasn't going to be late for her next client, and she said it didn't matter. They weren't too fussy about the time she got there. I asked her if she would get paid for the full call. I know they do. I guess I wanted to see what she would say. She didn't exactly lie, but she said she didn't know, but it didn't matter as long as I was all right. She was being so nice, I felt I had to be nice back, although really I wanted to shake her, and so I said how kind she was. The next morning, Wednesday, Carol came, roughly on time. She had with her a book I'd lent Jill last year called Pet Psychic, and 2 egg cups which had disappeared from my cutlery drawer, I can't remember when. You going to sit in my lap? You going to sit in my lap? No? What do you want to do? That's a good boy. Carol told me the egg cups were hers, and she had loads of them at home, so she brought me a couple as I didn't have any. There must be a storeroom at Tamworth Home Care where they keep all the stuff they've nicked off me. I remember Jill asking me a couple of times if I had any egg cups. I knew my egg cups had gone missing, but I thought they were such insignificant objects, why would anyone nick them? It never occurred to me one of the carers had taken them, so I just said I didn't have any, not really wanting to have to go on a hunt for an egg cup when I could eat my eggs just fine peeled. This didn't seem to satisfy her though, and she said she thought I did have some egg cups, and she was making quite a big deal out of these missing egg cups. They were cheap things, just made out of a spiral of thick wire that had gone a bit rusty in places, exactly like the egg cups Carol had just given me. I wonder now if it was Jill who had taken the egg cups, and that's why they were returned with the book I'd given her, which would explain why she wanted to make such a big deal out of the fact they were missing, to clear herself of any suspicion. She was probably also a bit miffed I didn't seem more upset, but there's not much I can do to stop them taking stuff, and if it's not valuable to me, why get upset? Before she left, Carol said a strange thing. She said well done for standing up to them, and she gave me a thumbs up. Then she said, hopefully they will keep it up and you'll get your calls at 10 o'clock from now on. I'm not sure what it was I was being congratulated on. I wondered if she was referring to my call to social services, but that didn't make sense, as I'm not supposed to know that they know about these things. Was she congratulating me on talking back to Lucy when she tried to tell me off the other day for not letting her in? I didn't take Carol's statement seriously. I think they probably sent the book and the egg cups back to make me think they must be giving up. I also received a text message from my sister Claire. I haven't heard from her since Christmas. This is the one who lives a 10-minute stroll away. She asked me if I wanted to go to church with her on Sunday. As my phone wasn't charged, I didn't get the text message till I charged to call social services. I'm kind of glad because I didn't want to see her. With the mood I'm in at the moment, it would be very hard to keep my cool and pretend everything was fine between us. I wonder if this too was a part of the "we give up, you win" charade. In the past, Claire's text messages haven't turned up on my phone till a couple of days after they've been sent, according to the date on the text message. But I think now they have the technology or software that can change this information, so maybe it wasn't really late at all. From my long experience of this harassment, they don't ever give up. Just because I have a go at someone or call social services, it isn't going to stop them. They've done this a few times in the past, tried to convince me they were going to leave me alone, but this is just so you drop your defences. It is much more fun to harass someone who doesn't realise they are being harassed. The next 2 days, Yolanda came in the morning, and she was late both times. She came at 11:15 yesterday and this morning, so I turned her away. Given they've been nicking stuff off me all my life, giving me my book back and a couple of egg cups doesn't really prove anything. The only things they've taken which have upset me is my artwork. I did a BTEC in art and design, and I did a degree at Falmouth College of Arts. I had a portfolio of artwork from these courses. But all this coursework disappeared when I was living in Stamford. I was keeping it under my bed, and one day I looked and it just wasn't there. This morning, although I had told social services I wouldn't be in, I thought it was still possible they might turn up, as they would know from the controllers that I didn't really have anywhere else I was supposed to be. So I decided to get up as early as I could. I had boiled 2 eggs the night before, because for some reason I feel better after eating eggs. There's something in them which helps me. I want to go vegan, but whenever I give up eggs, my fatigue comes back even stronger. Luckily, I woke up earlier than usual. I'd set the alarm clock for 8:30, but I woke up at 6. This was good, as the longer I sleep, the worse I feel. If I wake up in the early hours of the morning, I usually don't feel so bad. Then I think it's safe to go back to sleep, and then I wake up about 9 feeling awful. Anyway, I was able to get up and eat my eggs and take my tramadol, and an hour later I was feeling okay enough to do a few things. I decided I'd wait till 10:30 for the carer, then go out. I suppose one reason for sending Yolanda so late was the hope I would stay in waiting for her, and then I would be here at 11, the time the social worker said she was coming. Actually, by the time I'd got ready, it was 11:15. So when Yolanda came at 11:15, I sent her away, then went to Tesco to see if I could get a replacement for my portable DVD player. I'm wondering now what it was they had planned for social services to say to me, that they didn't want to put in the letter. I'm guessing it might have been to cut down my calls to even shorter than half an hour, which would be a 15-minute call. Thinking about it now, there had been a few hints from the carers this might have been what they were planning. About a week ago, Yolanda came, and while she was filling in the folder, she said she couldn't find some of the forms. I think it was the food charts she was referring to. She asked me, "Don't we fill these forms in anymore?" Then Lucy mentioned a few weeks ago about a client they have that they don't do anything for, they just go in and check she's okay. I wasn't sure at the time why she was bringing this up. I had a look in the folder to see what they were writing about me, and most of the entries simply say, "Victoria fine on arrival, made her breakfast, everything okay on leaving." Clearly I'm not always fine. I have some very bad days, but it doesn't seem to matter if I've been lying in bed all day feeling ill, with a migraine. They still just put Victoria fine. But then I said earlier in this entry why I think they're ignoring how I'm feeling. Whenever I go through a period of vomiting, that doesn't usually get recorded either. Usually they don't even come to check I'm okay. They'll just ignore me. I'll be throwing up in the bathroom, and they'll be in the kitchen, whistling. If this was their plan, telling them that I was thinking of cancelling my care plan, must have gazumped them. If this was their plan that they were going to cut my hours down. then me telling them I wanted to cancel my care plan anyway. Would have made the visit pointless anyway. Lucy showed up earlier in the week. It was the first time she'd been since we'd had our little disagreement. She was back to sweet, kind and caring Lucy. I didn't really feel like chatting to her. It takes a lot of energy to talk to these people. Mostly it's just to make the visit run more smoothly, with as little conflict as possible. But I really didn't feel up to putting on fake me, so I told her I wasn't feeling well and I didn't want anything to eat so she could go. She didn't mention the argument, she just filled in the folder and went. And that was the entry for Thursday. Okay, this is the journal entry for the 2nd of July 2017, which is Sunday. I woke up this morning at 6 feeling awful. This isn't how I normally feel if I wake up early. I usually don't feel so bad. I got up and took some tramadol and had an apple. Then Ginger heard me moving about and came into the hall meowing. I gave him some chicken, but he wouldn't eat it. Then I got a horrible sensation that comes on before I'm about to vomit. This is an attack with an electromagnetic frequency. I've actually seen a device for sale on a private eye's website that makes people vomit. It looks like a megaphone. In the advertising blurb it said the device could be used to disperse crowds by making them all feel sick. I can't remember the name of the website. It was actually being discussed on an Alex Jones video. So when people say this technology doesn't exist, that it's just a conspiracy theory, they are being very naive. If you can buy this stuff on the internet, imagine what the government has. It took an anti-sickness tablet, some Bucostem, but it didn't stop me throwing up the apple I'd just eaten. After I sat in the bathroom for about half an hour, when I began to feel better, I went and sat in the lounge. I bought some scales yesterday to weigh Ginger, and he is 3 kilograms. If this is accurate, he has put on 100 grams. The vet had said it was unlikely he would be able to put on weight, what with having a heart condition and kidney problems. But when I read how bad cat food is for cats, I decided to put him on an organic diet, as it has helped me. He's been losing about 50 grams every time I visit the vet. For the first few days after putting him on an organic diet, he seemed to enjoy it. His stomach wasn't making as many funny noises, and his poo didn't smell as bad. But now he's sticking his nose up at the organic meat. He is incredibly fussy. It could just be him trying to control, which he does a lot. He's gone back to sleeping on the sofa at night. If I bring him into the bedroom, he runs out again. Carol came at 10:30 and announced proudly she was on time. I reminded her my call was supposed to be 10 o'clock. She smelt strongly of cigarettes. I wondered if she'd taken an unofficial fag break in order to get here for 10:30 and not a minute earlier. That being the latest, I will let people in. I haven't had a morning call now for 4 days in a row. At least with Carol I don't have to make fake conversation. It's hard to talk to her because she's partly deaf. Well, I find it hard. Strangely, I have that strange repulsion around her that I felt around Louise. I had Vicky last night. I had Vicky last night and the night before. She seems to have gotten over her nervousness. The time before, she was super chatty, but in a nervous way, and every time she attempted to drop something into the conversation, a hint, or repetition of something I'd said or written, or something to make me think, can these people read my thoughts, or how do they know these things about me? Are they psychic? I could see the stress build up in her, and a couple of times she only got halfway through what she was saying before having to turn away. As I stood in the kitchen doorway listening to her, I had the impulse, not my own I'm sure, to cover the front of my gang-stalking hoodie. I think it might have been intimidating her. I'd asked her to do some pancakes and she was doing all the things the other carers do, pretending she didn't know how to make pancakes. They will make them really thick so they are more like a flat cake than a pancake. They will use 2 eggs when I ask them to use one. They will mash bananas when I tell them just to chop them. It's all very petty and silly. I guess the point is to be as annoying as possible without appearing to be doing it on purpose. Last night, Vicky threw away some potatoes and baked beans I'd left on the side for my supper that were left over from breakfast. Even as I said to her, "No, don't throw it away," she pretended she hadn't heard me and carried on throwing it away. Then looked up and said, "Oh, sorry, were you keeping it?" So I don't know what they've said to her, but she's suddenly become a lot more confident and cocky. But then they're good at inflating people's egos. Later, when I told her I was probably going to cancel my care plan, she looked genuinely surprised. I guess they've convinced her I don't really know what's going on. I'm having fantasies about telling them all what I think of them when they leave for the last time, telling them what idiots they are and how glad I am that I'm not going to see them ever again, with a few F-bombs thrown in. I probably won't, it's not my nature. I can rarely stay angry enough to come out with that kind of stuff, unless I'm triggered in the moment. I had an experience a few days ago while meditating. I downloaded the meditation from YouTube. It was described as a crystal skull activation, but it wasn't what I expected. In the meditation, you go into an underground cavern that is full of amethysts, and there are 12 crystal skulls on pedestals in a circle, and in the centre is a 13th crystal. The main thrust of the meditation was to bring light into the underground cavern. Then I remembered a meditation I'd done with an oak tree in Beeching Park. I never really fully understood the images I got. The meditation went like this. First I saw the top of a pumpkin, half of which is buried in soil. Then a row of trees in an underground tunnel. I saw dry, dusty ivy on a tree trunk. It seems dark, so this is possibly still underground. I saw a big trunk with lots of little doors in the bottom of it. I saw underground mining, trunks moving material. Then I saw a cross-section of a pile of wood. Some were planks and some were logs, so a mixture of straight lines and circles. The gaps in between were white. I saw empty caves or tunnels with some icicles. It looked cold and empty. Then I saw ivy with white around the edges, looking healthier than the earlier ivy. I saw some gems and crystals shining in the rock. A stream underground with white light reflecting from its surface. And then another tunnel, which is lit by a bright light. There is a lot of activity and workmen working on it. Then I saw a tree trunk with a hole in the bark revealing the sapwood beneath, which then turns into a small door. I think this meditation is talking about things I read about in Nature Spirits by Verena Stell von Holstein. The trees have a communication network. It works a bit like the internet, so that all trees can access news of what is happening where every other tree is. The meditation seems to be saying that this network has broken down in places, due it seems to human activity like mining and certain materials being taken out of the earth, which are necessary for the maintenance of this network. I also read in this book that when oil is pumped out of the ground, it leaves huge bases that are then occupied by dark spirits. The presence of the dark energy creates blocks in the free flow of energy and information around the globe. Ivy, in dream symbolism, represents close-knit relationships and the security and comfort they provide. I think that this is talking about the relationship between humans and trees. I think the pumpkin at the beginning represents the communication possible between people and the earth, as pumpkins represent Halloween, a time when the veil between the material and the spiritual realm is thinner. In the meditation I downloaded from YouTube, I was bringing light into an underground cavern, and also releasing information held by the crystal skulls. I think this is what the oak was asking me and telling me was needed in this meditation. that we need to clean up not just the mess we've made on the surface of the planet, but also underground too. The closed doors at the beginning and the open door at the end seem to be saying that engaging in this work will open up the realm of the nature spirits to humans. The other day I was listening to a channeling of a woman called Anna Robards on a YouTube channel, Why Is This True? She claimed to have been on a reptilian planet where humans were being kept as slaves. It sounds as if she and her family went voluntarily. The reptilians told them they wanted to help humanity, and that Anna and her family, her husband and children all went too, could help them. The ego is our biggest enemy, and the ETs know all they have to do is to make people feel important and to flatter them, and make them feel special, and they will believe whatever they are told. I have heard of abductions and people being experimented on by ETs, but it never occurred to me that they were keeping some of them as slaves. According to this woman, there is a population of about 50,000 humans on the reptilian planet she was on. Given that their aim is to acquire planet Earth themselves, and to keep a small number of humans to do the work, it makes sense that some humans are already enslaved on their home planet. The idea that there are humans who are collaborating with these reptilians and doing deals with them and letting them abduct a certain number of people is, well, disgusting. There's no other word for it. I'm including this woman's story here because I often wonder what stories the perps who harass me, like the carers, are told to persuade them to participate. I'm pretty sure they're being taught that Satan created the material world. This is what secret societies teach, and I wonder if they are also being told that the reptilians are nice people who want to help us. So if you're a perp, reading or listening to this and you've been told this bullshit, then let this story be a warning to you. After I'd watched this video, I went to Morrison's. As I was about to go in, a woman, she looked in her 50s or 60s, with that inane smirk on her face that these people have, stopped dead in front of me and pretended to be fiddling about looking for something in her back pocket. I thought to myself, how upset would I be if this silly woman, and all those like her, were abducted and taken as slaves to reptile world? I was quite shocked at my response to this question. Part of me was thinking, serve them right. Maybe that's what it takes for some people to realise the darkness is not a fun path to take. In this video, Anna was asking people to pray for those who were enslaved by ETs, and to ask for divine intervention, as we have free will and divine will not intervene without our request. I'm sad to say I couldn't bring myself to do it. Anna also said that they take as slaves those who are subservient to authority, those who are easily subject to manipulation and control, those who have faith in things like governments despite all the horrible things they continue to do. At the moment this includes most people. I can't think of a greater incentive for people to wake up. I had another spiritual type of experience a few days ago. It was Thursday, the date of my previous journal entry. I was coming back from town and I saw a blackbird in someone's front garden. I like to say hello to the birds. Sometimes I get a reaction, and they hop along beside me for a short distance. I find the blackbirds are very friendly, like the robins. The magpies have gotten more friendly, the crows are a bit more wary, and the pigeons are the most skittish. The blackbirds usually stop and look at me, as if to acknowledge me. After saying hello to the blackbird, one of the flowers in the garden caught my attention, so I said hello to it too. Then I started saying hello to the trees, bushes and plants I passed. I remember that in my book, Animal Souls, it stressed the importance of making the animals and all of nature feel welcome, and letting them know how appreciated and valued they are, otherwise more and more species will start to leave the planet. So as well as saying hello, I began telling them how much better they made the world, how more beautiful they made it, and how much pleasure they gave to people. I thanked the trees for taking in carbon dioxide and giving us shade. I thanked them for all the traits and qualities they brought to Earth and the example they were to us. I was nearly home, and I was walking across a patch of grass that was in front of the street my flat's on, and I felt a spirit. I think it was an earth spirit. It felt female, and about 2 feet tall, throw her arms around me and give me a hug. I was quite surprised and didn't react at first. Then I came to my senses and sent her some kisses. I wish I was quicker to respond like that. I should have given her a hug too. I guess she was saying thank you for appreciating the work they do. I've had an encounter with a nature spirit on this patch of grass before, but that felt male. So if you want to have contact with nature spirits, like fairies, gnomes and brownies, start praising nature and thanking it, and they will respond in kind. While I was at the park today, there were a few strange goings on. A group of girls walked past me shouting "fuck" repeatedly very loudly. Then a bit later, a group of boys walked past shouting "vagina" repeatedly very loudly. Then a woman with a buggy passed by. She was telling her daughter to be quiet and not to wake the lady, me. So I guess the perps are being instructed to make as much noise as possible when they pass me, trying to meditate. It's the first time, though, I've heard someone say to be quiet when they pass me. I had forgotten to take my meditation sign with me, and I suppose a toddler wouldn't understand what meditation is, so maybe that's why she said I was sleeping. Actually, when I was in Vodafone last week, there was a woman being served, and when she got up to leave, there were two guys standing in her way. I had just been to Tesco where people had been stopping dead in front of me and blocking my path, and I was actually getting sympathetic vibes from this woman, and she told these men to move in a very defiant tone, and I kind of felt she was expressing some sympathy for me. So there are a few people watching what is happening and who disapprove. I think I figured out why there was all this vomiting this morning. When I came back from the park, I found that Ginger had also vomited. This morning the neighbour's cat had also come in and eaten the chicken I'd put down for Ginger, who wouldn't eat it, and he also vomited. So all three of us vomited this morning. And no, I don't think we have a bug. I've seen before how they will often attack Ginger with the same symptoms that they attack me with. If I shield him with my body, then the vomiting stops. It was only last night that I was sharing with Vicky how pleased I was with Ginger's progress on this new diet of organic meat, and how he'd even put on a bit of weight. I've also noticed how aware Ginger is that the change in diet has made him feel better. When I take my supplements, he comes over and has a sniff at them, and looks at me as if to say, "Is any of this for me?" And this has only started since I took him to the vet and started him on the organic diet. So he understands that what we eat can make us feel better or worse. However, yesterday and today he's been leaving his food. This might sound strange, but I also believe that the controllers can put thoughts into the minds of animals as well as people. Thoughts don't begin as words. If you meditate and practice silencing your mind, you begin to notice that thoughts appear in your mind in wordless form before they are translated into words by your brain. And I think, from observing my own mind during meditation, that they are able not just to put words into your mind, to speak to your mind, but to also put a thought that isn't yet deciphered into words in your mind also. And this makes me think it is possible for them to put thoughts into the minds of animals. It could also be done with images. You can communicate with animals using visual telepathy. So I think part of the vomiting is part of an attempt to make Ginger think this food is not good for him, and possibly they are also putting these thoughts in his mind. You might think that this is a lot of trouble to go to over a cat, but if Ginger keeps losing weight, he isn't going to last very long. As a targeted individual, a pet is probably going to be your closest companion. I had a cat called Ben who died in mysterious circumstances. My dad was supposed to be looking after him, and one day he collapsed. They took him to the vet, and the vet said he had lung cancer, and it was far too advanced to do anything for him. Luckily, I managed to get to the surgery just before the vet euthanised him, so I got to say goodbye. When I questioned my dad, he insisted he hadn't noticed anything wrong with Ben leading up to the collapse. I don't believe him. It's simply not possible. You don't just wake up one day with cancer and collapse without having had any prior symptoms. Personally, I think he was probably poisoned with some kind of radioactive substance. The controllers have tried to take Ginger off me twice before. The first time was when I was living in Devon. Ginger didn't like going outside, but I would let him out at night and he would have a sniff around the courtyard for 5 or 10 minutes, then come back in. One evening I let him out, and after a few minutes I heard a loud thud. It sounded similar to a rug being hit against a wall. I'm doubtful if that actually had anything to do with his disappearance though. I think it was just something they could use to create a story of what had happened. That the noise had frightened him and he had run off. If he had run anyway, it would have been back inside. Anyway, he didn't come back that night, nor the next. For 2 months I walked around the village, putting leaflets through people's letterboxes with a photo of Ginger and asking them to check their sheds and garages, and anywhere else a cat could get into. I walked miles every day. I called one psychic and she said that he hadn't gone very far, that he was very close to me. This turned out to be true. Another psychic told me he would turn up, but that I had to carry on doing what I was doing, which I did. Then one day a lady from across the road turned up with a cat basket with Ginger in it. Apparently he had been in her neighbour's shed. This neighbour was a man who lived alone. He had an Alsatian, who he would keep in his backyard for much of the day, and who spent much of this barking, so I don't think he had much love for animals, which makes you wonder why get a dog in the first place. I guess on one level he must have craved companionship, but he didn't want to admit it. Apparently he had gone to look in his shed and Ginger had shot out. Remember, I had put several leaflets through this guy's door asking him to check his shed. I think Ginger was taken and put in the shed. Imagine how bad I'd have felt when the guy came and told me he'd found Ginger's starved body in his shed, and he'd been just across the road from me the whole time. Of course, given that I was walking past this guy's house at least twice a day calling for Ginger and putting leaflets through his doors, it would have been very difficult for him to claim he didn't know my cat had gone missing. It would have been very clear he was in some way responsible. I wouldn't have felt bad for not finding Ginger. I'd have known exactly who was responsible. I like to think that maybe the guilt of leaving an animal to starve to death eventually got to him. So he did let him out eventually, which I'm grateful for, but when I think of Ginger being locked in that shed all that time, it's quite upsetting. I don't know how Ginger managed to survive those 2 months in a shed. He was literally just skin and bones, and as light as a feather. He must have been able to drink rainwater and maybe catch a few mice. More recently, about 1.5 years ago, I went into hospital. My neighbour, who lives opposite, said she would feed Ginger for me. But then when I was in hospital, I got a call from Carly at the Housing Association saying my neighbour wasn't able to go in and feed Ginger anymore, and that she had called the RSPCA to come and pick him up. I felt like I had been led into a pre-prepared plan. Luckily, I managed to persuade my sister Liz to go round and pick him up, although she took quite a lot of persuading. At first she told me she was in Sheffield and there was no way she could get there, so I asked her if her partner could go around, and she said she couldn't ask him to do that, he was doing something else. There seemed to be a problem with anyone I suggested. I'm not sure how I managed to persuade her in the end. I think she just ran out of excuses. It was a very long conversation. She gave me quite a telling off for getting myself into this situation. I didn't argue with her. She was my only chance to keep Ginger. Later, she let drop how she and her partner had both gone round to pick Ginger up, so I'm not sure what the situation really was when I called her. But I got Ginger back, and I do have Liz to thank for that. She told me that when she went to the flat, at first they weren't able to find him. Then just as she was leaving, she had the idea to go back to the bedroom and look behind the sofa. And there he was. I think my angels must have been there, whispering in her ear. My sister is a strange mixture of contradictions. There is a desire to do the right thing, but she still has her old beliefs that to be successful in life you have to be mean to others. This is a belief in lack, that there isn't enough to go around, and that to be happy you have to take that happiness of someone else. Hopefully you can see why I am now very concerned about Ginger's health and safety. I think it's perfectly possible that Ginger's symptoms are being induced in the same way mine are. And as an organic diet helped me mitigate some of these symptoms, I think the same is true for Ginger, and there's no way I'm going to put him back on the junk that comes in pouches, which will simply hasten his demise. When Yolanda came at 7, she was still in nice mode, whilst at the same time making those little annoying statements and digs. She made a comment about Ginger. She asked me if he didn't like the food I was giving him. She said he'd come into the kitchen, looked at his bowl, then looked at me and walked out. I was standing at the sink with my back to him, so I didn't see it. She's never shown any interest in Ginger's eating habits before, which makes me think she was trying to get in on the act and see if she could persuade me to stop giving him organic meat. The carers are always trying to impress their bosses. Not the boss of Tamworth Home Care, but whoever is in charge of this harassment of me. But what she said just makes me more sure the vomiting this morning was an attempt to make me stop with the organic food. Maybe they thought I might also think it was responsible for my own vomiting episodes. Certainly Yolanda seemed to be attempting to persuade me not to give him this food, which is strange given she's a vegan and she's supposed to like animals. So that was my entry on the 2nd of July, Sunday. And yeah, so I'll end it there because it's quite long already. And I'll probably go back to doing one from the present, one from the past next time.